Okay.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us for another edition of our short webinars all around the topic of purposeful retail. My name is Ruven, and I'm very excited to get to host this week's edition, where we're poking our noses a little bit in the topic of purposeful supply chain. And I'm very excited to be joined by two wonderful guests, one who's sitting not too far away from me in Hamburg, Hendrik Heuermann from H&M, and almost on the other side of the globe right now in Shanghai, we're joined by Roland van Os from Hermes-OTTO International. Very excited to have both of you with me. Would you be okay just giving a short introduction from your side, who you are, what you're doing, and then we'll jump right into the topic afterwards. Roland, do you want to start us off?
Okay.
I would say he's like the godfather of the Otto Group's sustainability phase in Germany.
So sorry, we dropped out again.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Yeah.
We'll try one more time. So sorry about this. I don't know what's going on with our side here today. We'll give it one more try. Sorry.
yes.
I'll quickly redo the intro very quickly.
Okay.
Welcome, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us on this week's edition of our short webinars all around the topic of purposeful retail. We're getting to talk about a super exciting aspect of this big topic, namely purposeful supply chain. And I'm very excited to be joined by two wonderful experts from different perspectives in this field today, who join me from two very different parts of the globe. Joining us from Hamburg and from H&M is Hendrik Heuermann, and all the way at the other end of the globe from Shanghai, Roland van Os for Hermes-OTTO International is joining us. Roland, do you want to start us off with a quick introduction before we move to Hendrik, and then start us off on our discussion?
Yeah. So my name is Roland van Os. I'm working for Hermes-OTTO International, which is a part of the Otto Group Hamburg. Hermes-OTTO International is an organization which has 25 sourcing offices worldwide, where around 1,500 people taking care of sourcing, buying and purchasing of around 35 to 40 customers on a global level. And I'm based in Shanghai and taking care of the China region, including Myanmar, Laos, Cambodia. We have 5 offices, Hong Kong, Shanghai, Dongguan, Wuhan, and Qingdao. So that's where my responsibilities are today.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us. Hendrik, a quick hello from you.
Yes, Hendrik from Germany. I had the retail side of the H&M and business for sustainability. So really concerning the role of the employee in Germany and the customer along the journey, not so much directly involved with the supply chain, but more on the retail store side.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. And I think it's particularly exciting to have the two of you today on the call. We've talked a lot about purposeful retail and what customers want, what they worry about, and their questions about the whole supply chain in many of our conversations over the last few weeks. And of course, production and supply chain is the other side of the coin. And so I think it'll be exciting today to hear a little bit from both of you where you see the most important topics and issues around that. So maybe starting with you, Roland, being based in a country that is both a huge production country, and you mentioned all the different production offices that you oversee, but that's also increasingly a huge market of consumers of those products. What are the biggest topics that you see on your side these days when it comes to supply chain and sustainability both on the production but also on the consumption side?
And there's actually two things. I think that the Chinese government is really looking into to do the sourcing and the production more sustainable. So important is that they really look into now environmental protection, and it's not anymore like you have to be just a part of it. No, they really control your company and looking into it. If you are not sustainable enough, they just will close your company. And it is not because they don't like it. No, the Chinese government is investing also in one belt, so the train line from China into Europe, to build a long-term sustainable business. For us, 37% of our business is still coming out of China, and we need to understand that in the Otto Group, social responsibility is cemented. You know, Dr. Otto, even he's 76 years old, it is one of his core values already for years. If you look on the other side, the demand of the local market here, with all the platforms here, etc. So you see also suppliers and factories who were before, let's say, export oriented, they choose to go and manufacture much more for the local market, and that is what you see happening. So at the moment, it's a shift, what you see happening. But I think the right thing to do. I think that is good, and I'm still confident here in China, and it is also what our customers giving it. It's still an important market. Yeah? So
very exciting. And Hendrik, so Roland mentioned sort of the environment as one of the big focus areas for government-led improvements right now in China. Does that match what you get in terms of, or what you see as questions and concerns from consumers and the public in what's really a pure consumption market, Germany? There's no production here, so we only see the retail side of things.
Yeah, I mean, I see two things. One being the trend that people increasingly are aware of the consequences of their purchase decisions. So they don't want to make mistakes. They don't want to support companies that they don't trust. So handling the data and being transparent and really making sure the consumer understands his choices and the effect he or she has, that's key. I would say that's one. And two is certainly the drive for many consumers to leave a positive footprint with the way they live their lives and consume and purchase things. They don't want to be that, the consumer just being advised by a company. They want to co-create. They want to be a partner of the journey, and I think that's key for any company for the future to, on the one hand, provide all the information the consumer wants to have, and two, make him a partner and an ally together on a sustainability journey, because I believe everybody understands it cannot be done alone, not by a single government, not by a single company, certainly not by a consumer. You always need to find partners along the way.
Very exciting. And one of the topics that you mentioned is around trust and data. I'm curious from the two of you. So one of the big topics and trends that gets thrown around, at least often I have the feeling on consumer side, are things like blockchain, and we'll be able to really know exactly which piece comes from where and understand its entire history. Roland, maybe starting with you again, is that actually the thing in terms of innovation and new trend that really is most relevant right now from your perspective on the production side, or is this more a hype that we have here in consumer markets, but something else is actually much more relevant? So where do you see the biggest innovation topics on the supply chain side of things and the production side of things?
I think it's not it's a trend. I think it's a must. Transparency, it's very important. We as a group, we take it seriously. Also for our customers, that we are transparent, or where we produce, how we do it. We have our own sourcing organization. We do our own audits, etc. So also towards the consumer, you have to be transparent. I think it's for the future. It is the right thing to do, that the consumer understands where the goods are coming from, and they buy. I think a good example for me is like, if you look currently what's happening in the food business. The food business is very transparent. You know where the goods are coming from. Is it biological or not biological? Mm-hmm. I think that is important. What we need to do. If you see one of the initiatives of the Otto Group, and especially Dr. Otto in a person, is cotton made in Africa. So we by next year, 100% of our articles which contain cotton should have a certain percentage of cotton made in Africa. So that means that we take care of the cotton farmers in Africa, and it will be transparent. So the people can look on the website. They can go and say, okay, what does it mean, cotton made in Africa? Where does it come from? And I think Hendrik, it's especially H&M is one of the companies who is already wanted to, also the people who take this initiative. So then I hand over now to Hendrik.
Yeah, maybe picking off of that then, do you think, Hendrik, is the main challenges from that you still see, is there a technical challenge in terms of getting enough data, or is it a challenge around how do we best communicate it and create the transparency?
I think it's both, actually. The more I dig deep into this, and the more I understand the amount of data, I have the feeling it's not so much the existence of the data. The data is there. It's more to make sense of it. So, for example, and there are many interesting moral dilemmas that you could talk about, although you have the data. It doesn't tell you anything about the ethical choices behind this. For example, it's not an issue to say where the products come from, of course, and I think Roland knows this better than I do. Of course, the data is somewhere. The companies know where their products are made. That's not an issue, and this data can be portrayed. The question, do we like the company, or do I, as a consumer, want to support the company that this product is coming from? That's an interesting question no data can answer. Or, for example, you could, in a way, compare the CO2 emissions of the different products that you have. The data is there. That's not an issue. But saying, do we want to reduce CO2 at any cost? I mean, for example, shifting jobs from Asia to Europe, do we think that's wise? I don't have the answer. I'm just saying it's something beyond the data that needs to be decided. So in a way, to answer your question, I think the data is there. It's much more to tell stories about the implications of this data and what it means for you as a consumer. That's something I see unsolved.
Mm-hmm. So also, how do companies like Hermes-OTTO and H&M sort of portray the complexity of the supply chains in a way that a customer can actually make informed choices? Because, as you both mentioned, in a way, there's tremendous amounts of data and huge complexity. And if I want to go and buy a white T-shirt, there's probably a limited amount of brain space that I can commit to understanding all of those complexities. And I heard from both of you, though, a little bit also the sense that their transparency and trust and even co-creation are sort of the big topics that are being worked on right now in terms of, making supply chains more purposeful more sustainable. Maybe towards the end of our quick conversation here, what do you think is the next thing? So what needs to come after that? Once we've created that transparency, once we have an even more open, clear dialogue with customers that helps them understand where the goods that they consume actually come from, what do you see, Roland, as the next big thing that will be tackled through supply chain, through production?
And for me, the next step is really that we make not only transparent, that not it's only that the consumer look where it's coming from. No, that we inform and tell also the consumer that it's coming from a reliable source, etc. I think that is the key topic. I don't think that a lot of people are really going to dig in where is it coming from, where the yarn coming from, where is it dyed. No, I think the job to do is that we are able to communicate to the customer, hey, this is coming from the right source, and when you buy this, it is for sure. We can guarantee you, and if you want transparency, you can look into it. You can do a QR code or whatever you want. But I think it should be the other way around. Instead of that, the consumer is digging into what I'm buying and looking into it. No, we should inform them where it's really coming from, what is behind it, etc. And that means that you beside marketing your brand, you need to marketing the sustainability of your product, and this is the future. I tell you. And then that is the only way you can help the environment, because at the end it's not to help the consumer, it's to help the environment, and that we do work on environmental protection, and that we produce in a sustainable business, and we as a group, we take also different initiatives. Like we took a position in a company, it's opening up in Vietnam. It's called Clean Dye. Clean Dye is a factory where waterless dyeing is starting, and we as a Otto group, we just took a investment there instead of just waiting. Okay, can you supply us? No, we said it's very important, so we take an investment there, and then later on, we will inform the consumer that they really buy an article which is dyed without water. Yeah, so I think these are important topics.
So to beyond transparency, really go out and proactively drive sustainability and make that a core part of your communication around the products that you bring or help bring to them. Wonderful, yeah. And Hendrik, maybe with a close ear to the consumer, do you think is that the direction that the consumers are driving companies towards, or do you think there's another big demand that's coming from the consumer side that's gonna push organizations and supply chains in a new direction?
Yeah, at least I hope so, because what I believe the industry, the whole fashion industry is currently based on a very interesting bet on the future, and the bet is not sustainable at all, because no matter how fast or slow you are, you always produce products in advance of a trend that you create afterwards. And I think the next big thing will be to reverse that system and actually make consumers be part of creating a trend and the product simultaneously. And I have no idea how that would look like in the end, but I hope that we'll have much more creative ways of on-demand production, and consumers tagging along with companies and saying, okay, let's just invest and produce what we actually want to have, and not, produce before actually somebody needs it.
Wonderful. And all the work that's going on right now in terms of creating more transparency about how things are being produced, becoming closer and more adaptive and more agile to consumer demand, being much faster, obviously be a way of getting the industry ready to meet that demand. So that sounds like a super exciting future and a really important time actually for the whole industry to get ready for that potential new future. Awesome. Wonderful. Then this was our quick 15 minutes. I would really, really like to thank you for taking time out of your busy days to chat with us and share your thoughts with us. It was really, really insightful. And I hope maybe there's a conversation in the future to check in together on that exciting vision that we created here today. So
yes.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.